Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Now one of my favourite things to do is to take a short drive down to my favourite second-hand bookstore and do a little bit of browsing for treasure. Welcome to my second book haul. Stay tuned. Now what I managed to find when I went shopping the other day was some excellent vintage horror paperbacks from the 70s, 80s, a couple of 90s, some 60s sci-fi horror paperbacks, and also some Stephen King that I can add to my collection, and so much more. So please stay tuned for that. In addition to that, what I'm going to do is that with each cover that I show you, I'm going to show you a cover of a reprint or a republished version in the 2000s, just to show you how different the covers have evolved, and I'm just so fortunate to have found some of these covers. First off, we've got Alligator by Shelley and Paul Katz. Now I just want you to look at the detail in that cover with the blood-stained teeth and the mouth with blood and the blood dripping out and gushing out into the water. This is a truly menacing cover, and if you look up above in the images, you can see some of the reprints of this book, and they don't even compare. So, and I also found out that this book is actually quite difficult to get hold of, and that it's a pretty good read. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this one at some stage. And it's about an alligator in the Florida Everglades, and guess what? He chows down on human beings, and there are these two hunters that go after him. So yeah, it sounds like a very much kind of Jaws-y novel, but as I say, I've heard good things about it, so I'm looking forward to reading it. That is Alligator. Next up, from Richard Matheson, who is the author of I Am Legend and Hell House, we get a sci-fi classic called The Shrinking Man. Now just look at this awesome cover. I think it's from the 60s, and it's basically about a man who starts shrinking, funny enough, and he drops down into his basement and he continues to shrink, and he gets attacked by, guess what, a giant black widow spider. Now I'm not sure how accurate this spider is in terms of a real black widow spider, but still, it's a pretty awesome cover. As you noticed as well, I've left the price of the books on the front of the cover. That's because, for instance, this one is 20 Rand. Now 20 Rand in dollars is maybe less than $1 or about $1, and pretty much all of the books that I bought are either $1 or just under or just over. So it's pretty cheap, this haul. Next up we have another sci-fi classic, and that is Fiends. Now I haven't been able to find this book mentioned anywhere on Goodreads, but it is absolutely beautiful cover, and just the blending of the different colors, I think that was typical of that day. And what I find hilarious is this damsel in distress, this woman. There always seems to be a beautiful woman, almost like on those James Bond covers, and she's a damsel in distress, completely out of place with this exact environment. I'm sure she has absolutely nothing to do with the book, but it's a very cool cover nonetheless. And it's about these giant alien ants that attack the earth. So it sounds like a lot of fun. Next up, from the author John Ferris, he wrote The Fury. It's a book that's been on my TBR for quite some time, so I was happy to get hold of it. And that is All Heads Turn When the Hunt Goes By. Now this is an absolutely bizarre cover. I don't know if it's a half woman, half snake, or kind of a woman with a snake costume that's torn up. Please let me know in the comments below and give me a hand here of what exactly this is. I don't know too much about the book. I do know that it's about some kind of military wedding that goes completely wrong, and that there's some kind of massacre. But yeah, it sounds like a really awesome tale of terror. Okay, and the last animal attack book that I've got to show you is The Snake by Jack Goody. Now, I love this image as well. I think it might have been a little bit better with a bit of dripping venom, but I love the long forked tail, the long forked tongue, and the fact that it's kind of hanging over the city. And this city happens to be New York, and the story takes place in Central Park in New York, where a black mamba goes on the loose, killing everything it sees. And apparently it's not so much a horror, more like a mystery thriller. But yeah, I love the cover nonetheless. And this author also wrote The Taking of Pelham 123, which I believe was made into a movie. So yeah, I'm going to enjoy getting stuck into this snake. Okay everyone, for the next book, I have read Damien Omen 1, and I'm a big fan of the 3 films, Damien Omen 1, 2 and 3, The Final Conflict. So when I saw Omen 4, Armageddon 2000, I just had to pick it up. I'm not going to tell you too much about this particular story. I think maybe you should pick it up right from the beginning, Omen 1, which is a story about the Antichrist and how he's reborn on Earth, and basically his life into adulthood. It's an absolutely amazing story. I also like the cover, the bloody blades falling from the sky, and the headline that says the ultimate evil has returned. Yes, I'm going to enjoy this. I don't think I'm going to read it. I'm going to try and get my hands on Omen 2 and Omen 3, and then maybe read the whole lot once again. But this was a great buy. Next up we have a Guy N. Smith entry again. If you remember on my last haul, I showed you the book The Locust, eating the face of that man. This is a bit different. This is a sinister man in the black fedora. Now, I love those eyes, and I love the background, the fiery background, as if he's coming from hell itself. I don't know too much about this book, but if we read the back a little bit, it talks about a festival week and all sorts of people at this festival, including Haggard, the man in the black fedora. He knows no one, but inspires a chilling, creeping fear in everyone. There will never be another festival like this one. It sounds kind of corny, but yeah, most of these books I'm getting for the cover anyway. The Black Fedora. The next book that I bought is one that I read already. I wasn't crazy about it, but I absolutely loved the cover. And I actually lost my copy, and that is The Orchard by Charles L. Grant. Now, I believe this is a 90s book, and Stephen King says, the premier horror writer of his or any generation. I tend to disagree with him on this. I think I gave it 2 or 3 stars on Goodreads, but still, this rotting apple oozing and dripping, and it actually looks like it's got teeth. I just think this is absolutely awesome cover, and I'm happy to have found it again. It's basically about this group of people. From what I remember, they go to this orchard for a picnic, and there was a big mistake, and things go horribly, horribly, horribly wrong for them after that. The next 2 entries on this list are 2 books I found from the 60s, and they're both horror collections, and I think the first one is pretty rare from what I read on the internet, and that is the 5th Pan Book of Horror Stories. Now, I think there are about, 13, 14 in the whole series. If someone can tell me, that would be great. But what I really love is this cover. Like, this woman looks like her face has been gnawed away by rats, or by locusts, or maybe even by slugs. I have no idea, but it's got a half a face, and it's gruesome indeed, especially for something from the 60s. I absolutely love it. It's a little pan book. I haven't recognized any of the authors in here, but I will dip in and see what the quality of the stories are like. Following on from that, we got another pan book, The Vampire, and that cover is also kind of strange, maybe not so much scary. That dead vampire in the coffin looks kind of weird to me, with the stake going through his chest. He looks like he's sleeping happily. But one good thing about this, I've actually recognized quite a number of the authors. There is Robert Bloch, there's Ray Bradbury, there's Edgar Allan Poe. So this should actually be quite a fun collection to delve into. That is The Vampire. Okay everyone, now for something completely different. When I was in the bookshop, at a certain section of the bookshop, I was buying a little present for my daughter, a stuffed animal that she probably gets through in about 2 weeks. And I found a middle grade section, a teenage section, and because this is Zombie-thon this month, I was looking for something, maybe something to do with zombies. I wouldn't say this is zombies, but this cover in particular just leapt out at me. And that's Skullduggery Pleasant. How awesome is that? Now, yeah, this is a book for teens, but I heard from the bookshop owner that it's actually an excellent read. And let me just read the back quickly. With his sunglasses gone, there was no denying the fact that he had no face. All he had was a skull for a head. At meet Skullduggery Pleasant, wisecracking detective, powerful magician, sworn enemy of evil. Oh yes, and he's dead. Yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun. The next book is by an author that is the kind of author that if I see the book, I will buy it if I don't own it. Not Stephen King, not Clive Barker, but Robert R. McCammon. Now, I've really been meaning to go through his work over the next couple of years, and I found Mystery Walks. Now, I've never actually heard of it before. I've been looking for some of his earlier work, like his first novel, Ball, and then I believe there's one called The Wolf's Hour that I want to get hold of. But I love this cover with the black eye and the red eye, and it looks like a fun house, a carousel in the background that's on fire. I don't know much about this book, but from what I've read at the back, it seems like almost a good versus evil kind of story, where it's these two men, and they are both have these powers, or they both have these things, and they basically get together and they have to fight this evil or each other. I'm not too sure about. I'm not going to read the whole back, but I'm thoroughly looking forward to Robert McCammon, Mystery Walks. And finally, my final two books. Now the prices of these books, you'll see on the front, are a lot more expensive, but still, it's about $2. And the reason being is because they're both Stephen King. And I've owned both these books at one stage in my life. I've lost them as time has gone by, so I'm very happy to find them again and add them to my bookshelf. The first is an underrated classic. I wouldn't say it's his masterpiece, but that is The Dark Half. You can't actually see the title on there. In fact, the actual book the book cover is not so great, but when you open it up, this is what you get. And it is The Sparrows Are Flying Again. The Sparrows Are Flying Again, over and over and over. Now, this is actually taken from a scene in the book, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, I'm very happy to find this book again. And it's a long time since I read it. One day I might give it a reread. That is The Dark Half. Finally, we have my best find of my shopping spree. And that is a beautiful hardcover edition of Needful Things. And I think this is the original cover. I absolutely adore this book, and I'm not going to speak about it too much right now, because my next video I'm going to mention this book, because my next video is to do with Stephen King, so you need to tune in then to find out what I have to say about Needful Things. It's a glorious hardcover, not in the absolute best condition, but I was very, very happy to find this book. And so everyone, what do you think of my book haul? Have you read any of these books, particularly the more obscure ones? Let me know what you think, and be sure to like and subscribe, and yeah, give me a comment in the dark spaces down below. And as always, take care, keep those pages turning, and cheers.